Hello everybody, my name is Andrew and welcome to the Deaf Kiwi Diversity Series. So at the time that you enrolled in the certificate level 3 and level 4, you two were the deaf participants in the classroom. Were you in a classroom with other hearing students? Yes. So how did communication work for you in the classroom when it came to new vocabulary or developing new signs or working with an interpreter? Ngā Waita, can you tell us a bit about what the communication was like and how successful that was? Well, we had an interpreter there. We had an interpreter who had been working at Te Wānanga o Aotearoa for quite some time, so that's why she was selected to come in and interpret. And also Cherie and I developed quite a number of signs based on the concepts, and then we worked with the interpreter to pick up the language that we were using. We had good communication there, really. When an interpreter wasn't available and we needed to communicate directly with the hearing people, we coached them on how we were best to communicate. So for example, they need to look at us directly. They can't look away from us when they're trying to communicate as they might do with hearing people. And so by doing that, we were able to have appropriate communication together. So in the wānanga and doing the study, I'm just trying to imagine what was it like for you when you had assessments or exams and assignments and so on. Well, Andrew, it wasn't easy. When we received the brief, the questions, for assignments and so on, I worked with an interpreter to understand. And I can also understand that the tutor was a little bit unsure about whether we were going to be cheating or how does that work when you're working with an interpreter. And we needed to explain that, hey, we don't have these concepts yet. The interpreter's here to help us to understand in our language, get the concepts. The tutor then understood about our culture and some of the differences between deaf and hearing people when it comes to learning. And so when we got the assignments and so on, that was a chance to really unpack it and get to know what the meaning was. And we would then use New Zealand Sign Language, and the interpreter would then translate that into English for our assignments and for those sorts of things. And that's how it progressed, and it worked well, which was a bit of a relief, really. It's so important to talk to the teacher before you start. Get to talk about your feelings and your thoughts about how this can work, and then it's smooth sailing from there. So when it comes to other people in the deaf community, potentially, would you encourage them to go to Te Wānanga o Aotearoa to do some study, that sort of thing? Well, yes, we would. We'd love to see more Māori deaf or Pākehā. Anyone's welcome, and there's no barriers there, really. You can succeed. You can have an interpreter. You have a right to have an interpreter if you want to learn. And so that's what I'd be saying to deaf people. You can talk to the tutors, you can talk about how you feel. Please don't think and give up that it's too hard. It is something that you can do. So I just really encourage you. You can do it. You can achieve this sort of thing. Yeah, I don't like the word can't. You've got to think about persevering. And, if you do step back, and if I was to do that, then you've got to think about, well, what's that going to mean for the deaf community and for the Māori community? It's really important that you take these steps and don't focus on the things that are holding you back, but you've got to look ahead and find ways to break through. And so, you talked a bit about Ngā Waita, about what you learned from Michael Wee when you were at school, and he's since passed away, and you want to continue that knowledge. You want to learn and you want to pass on the knowledge, teaching others. Why do you think that's so important for you to do that? What is it about that's so important? Well, that's the big question, Andrew. When Michael passed away, who's next? You're looking at Māori deaf people. Not everyone knows about their culture. Not everyone knows about carving or knows about things in Te Ao Māori. So the question is, who's next? And so I felt like, hey, I've got to put my hand up. I need to get involved and start taking some steps to help others, to help young Māori deaf know more about their culture, whether that's weaving, carving, and a whole range of things. Yeah, and I feel the same as ngā waiata. I want to see Māori deaf people who are keen, yep, I want to help, I want to get involved, I want to learn new signs and concepts. It's so important. When we first started and we went to, I remember we went to Auckland for a national hui, and we were there to present. There was a lot of people there who were really challenged by what we were sharing and teaching. And that was just a short workshop, really. But the feedback we got was, we want more. We don't feel that we've had enough time to do this. And, we gave a bit of homework and so on, but people just were not satisfied. They wanted more of this. And so hopefully we will have those opportunities. It would be lovely if we could establish something. And we're more than happy to help teach. However many hours it takes, we'll be there. Yeah, I think one thing I want to say is that for deaf Māori, I know a lot of people feel like they say they can't. I really do not like the word can't. You've got to think about moving forward. And that's why I'm getting involved. I'm here to support people to get beyond that. I don't want Māori deaf people to be behind others. And for me, it's not like I know everything about this and I'm better than anyone. It's nothing to do with that at all. I don't feel that way. It's about me helping others, and for those of us who share the same culture. Wow, I mean, you are the proof of the pudding, there, ngā waiata, what you've been able to do. And also it's about having good communication, good relationships with people there. And for me, for my teacher, I needed to coach them a little bit about how they were going to communicate with me, making sure that they're looking at me and pacing it for me. Because I'm thinking about, hey, if anyone else comes into this class and is taught by this person will know what to do. They'll have more experience. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, level 3 and level 4 were just absolutely the best. We had the best teacher. And just goes to show, it's so important to have a teacher who's good like that. What are some of the characteristics of a teacher that you feel are important? Well, the two tutors understood that we're deaf. They understood that we need interpreters, and we had a number of communication needs. When we explained to the teacher, hey, don't be scared of us, we did that at the very beginning of level 3. We said, hey, don't be scared of us. And the tutor said, oh, actually, I know some other deaf people that I've worked with and so on. It's like, oh, okay, great, you do. You've got some knowledge. That helped us to feel comfortable. So it's that sort of communication that we had up front. Also at level 4, we set the scene by having the conversation, and we were asked, what kind of communication sorts of things do we need? We advised them that, hey, we learn best when we can actually see visually and practically what you're doing. We can see, and then you can repeat it. We go away and do it, come back, see what you're doing. So make it really practical. Wow, that is amazing. That's so good. You're teaching them and you're listening to each other to make it a success. So I can see there's a number of different things that you've made here. Like you've got some weaving on the table, but you've also done some wall weaving, as it were. What do you mean, Andrew? Do you mean like that? Oh, no, I'm thinking of, you have a number of things on the table here, but when you go into a marae, for example, you can see some things on the wall. There's a certain pattern and certain weaving. Do you have a sign for that? What is that? Ah, yes, Andrew, that's called tuku, and that's the sign, tuku. Tuku like this. Is that something that you learnt? You learnt tuku? Yes, we did. That's at level 4. It was so challenging because all the students really were keen to do it. The teacher thought, okay, let's give it a go, knowing that it was everybody's first go. It's not something they'd done before at level 4. So, yeah, we were really looking forward to that in the end when it was decided. Those plants, a toi, the toi plant. Do you have a sign for that? This is the sign for toi. Right. So when you see a toi and it's got white head to it, or if you see it might be a kind of a whitish purple colour, do not choose those. That's showing that that's kind of towards the end of its life. You need to find the ones that are fairly white, and those ones you cut, and then you put them out, you lay them out in front of you, and you make a lattice. And then you begin to do the weaving around that lattice on the toi toi. On both sides, you've got to think about as well there. And also, yeah, think about the colours. So we've used yellow and white. Now, what's the name of the white one? It's called. Oh, is it? Maybe. Oh, anyway, there's two other particular plant names that are very, very sharp. These are very sharp blades on the plant, so you have to be very careful about how you soften the leaves of those. So you can use a knife, or you can use a mussel shell. So first of all, you need to think about what your pattern is going to be. So we were in groups of 3, and we all decided in our groups what our pattern was going to be. So once we made a decision, we got started, and it's about having a look. You start, and then you need to have a look on the other side of it. And so how did you do that? What we did, we had it on a table. You put the lattice on the table, and you get people going under the table, and the threading it upwards, and then we're threading it over, and then threading it back down again. So is it like a special table of some kind? No, just a normal table. And we kind of we had enough of doing it that way, and we had these special brackets that we were able to hold the lattice up straight. And then we had our team members, one on either side of the tukutuku panel. And so you then can feed it through, and we took turns on either side of the panel. So how do you communicate on either side of the panel if you're telling them where they need to thread it through? Oh, we had an interpreter. So the interpreter was standing halfway looking at both sides, and so I was able to see what the people on the other side of the panel were saying. So put it up through here and thread it through this side. And so the interpreter was always there. What about if it's 2 deaf people and they can't see each other? How do you communicate? Oh, you can just kind of sign around the side, or sign over the top of the panel. Oh, that's a good idea. Cherie never thought about that. You could sign over the top and understand looking at the hand shapes. That just goes to show the power and the flexibility of sign language. Yeah, definitely. And so it's a huge job and a huge panel. And after we did it, we talked about what the tukutuku panel meant to us as a group. And then it was actually put into Te Wananga o Aotearoa's hallway. And when it was put on the wall, I just felt so proud that we had achieved that. When you go into Te Wananga o Aotearoa, it looked a little bit plain. And so that was my first thought going in, but it was really nice to have some artwork on the wall, and it's a really welcoming and inspiring place to have our artwork, I think, on the wall. And our names are on also acknowledged there. And you can go in and have a look at Te Wananga o Aotearoa anytime, and you can kind of see, you'll be able to see the one that I made, was part of. Is that going to stay on the wall there, is it? Yes, it is. That's amazing. So you've got your work as deaf people on the wall there at Te Wananga o Aotearoa. That's amazing. So I'm thinking also maybe you could tell us some more about your own communication. Do you have some particular signs? You talked about developing some signs and working with an interpreter on communicating these concepts. Can you tell us a bit more about some of the signs you developed? We've got, for example, this paua shell that's very well known here in New Zealand. Do you have a sign for that? Oh, yeah, paua. This is the sign paua. This has been used as a traditional food for Māori for generations, and it's also used in a lot of crafts. Make earrings these days. make all kinds of things. Yeah. Lovely. How about this? What's this here? Do you have a sign that you use for that? Yes. This is tiki, which is a very symbolic in Te Ao Māori, and shows a lot of meaning of power. Right, so you've got the sign tukutuku. Oh, we have another sign. So Cherie talked about the sign tukutuku. I have another sign that I used, tukutuku, and this is about one person being on one side of the panel and another person being on the other. To be honest, when it comes to doing tukutuku, I did that panel on my own. It's quite a big panel too. The reason was that when I was in level 4, it's really important to learn about patterns and how to do them. And then in level 5, there was supposed to be 2 of us that went to level 5. My partner was focusing more on other things that they wanted to, so I decided to just do it on my own. And I tried not to rush, tried to just figure it out myself. And I found that what I could do is if I sat down and had the panel actually right in front of me, I was able to thread both sides of the panel to and fro. So that was, how I did it. So you can do it on your own. It's something you can do. Yeah, you can. So, you do one side and then you think that looks great. And I was just a little bit anxious about how I was going to make sure that I could ensure that the pattern was right the whole way through it. So, yeah, it was a bit tricky. But really, I mean, I think it's just amazing when our teacher talked to us about tukutuku and we started with just a small panel as a draft. And you get started and you think it looks great on the front, and then you turn it over and it's not right. So we were given feedback. You can't have the back of the panel all over the place. It actually has to follow exact order of threading through. And so that's really important, that when you're looking at the front of the panel, that you're not just thinking about that, you're also considering about how the back of the panel is managed and where you thread it through. So there is a correct way of doing that. Oh, right. So when you're looking at the back, it can't be all messy on the back. No, it can't. Oh, right. The reason for that, is, okay, you might have it on the wall, but that's also not going to sit flat on the wall if you do that. So, right. So that's the right way of doing it, a very sort of professional and correct way to do it. So good. Do you have any other vocabulary that you've developed on your course to do with tukutuku or weaving? Yes, puti puti. Oh, and what does that mean? Flower. Oh, right, puti puti. So in weaving, puti puti shape, a flower shape, is something that we make. Also, korowai. This is the sign for it, korowai. And also kahu. Kahu is like this. Oh, okay, so you've got 2 different signs there, Cherie. Yeah, there are 2 different signs. Korowai is really like it's a cloak with many feathers on it, and it's quite long. Ah, right. And then for kahu, is that in some way different in terms of its use, or is there any significance or purpose in terms of how it's used? No, it doesn't matter. if you like to wear a short one or a long one. I'd say though the longer ones, the korowa are really more for auspicious occasions, for chiefs, those sorts of events. Yeah, and it's really up to the individual if you want to have a shorter one or a longer one. Sometimes you think about children and their size, and what's going to match them, and same for adults. Great. Any other signs come to mind? Yes, noho. So that's like something you could put things in, like food, potatoes, for example, or kumara, or things that you can put in to, you could even put toilet paper if you wanted to, or dirty clothes. So it's really like a basket, but it's called a noho. Mm. Oh, and also pikal, it's like a backpack with the thin straps. Yeah, that's right. It's a design that has thin straps around the shoulders. So that's something that's been used for many, many generations, hasn't it, for traveling and sewing? Yeah, I mean, yeah, but you can use it for travel. You could, um, I think if you traveled these days, you'd kind of have to think about whether customs would accept that because it is made of organic material. So it does kind of depend about international rules. Or you could use it when you go fishing, or yeah, a whole variety of things. Yeah, Ngāwaita and I, when we were learning, we learned how to make nets to catch fish. So there's a particular weaving that you do for that to catch fish. Yeah, really, really interesting. Is that the same as for eels? Is it the same kind of net? Yeah, different size. There's a different size. So for eels, you use a really long type of net. For fish, it's a shorter, rounder one. Very good. Okay, right. And anything else you want to talk about today? I think when it comes to taniko, there's two different signs for that, but I would so there's one where you use your index finger, but sometimes people use their index finger and their middle finger for taniko. Lovely. Also, whale. I'd say that's another pattern. Oh, right. Okay, you can see the whale pattern on that one there. Yes. Um, I'd also like to share this shape. The meaning of this is about having visited around New Zealand a number of different marae. So I've gone to different hui, or I've gone to a tangi, or I've gone to respect someone, pay my respects, and been to different marae around the country. And so for me, this represents those marae that I will never forget. Oh, right. So that shape, that triangular shape, is that a mountain? No, it's a marae. Oh, right. Sorry, it's a marae. Right. So they are different marae that you have visited around Aotearoa. How lovely is that? My goodness. Yeah, that's the shape. And if it was a mountain, that's more of a straight triangular shape, but you can see the curved shape of this one. That's for marae. Oh, right. Okay. Also, Andrew, I've brought in this. This one's a bit cute, really. I made this myself in preparation, and I made a black one also in preparation because something I really wanted to do and meet a deadline for, because we used this when my husband and I got married. So I didn't wear a white traditional wedding dress. I wore a Maori inspired design, something a little bit different and something I feel very connected to and important to me. And so during the ceremony, Sam put the kahu on me, and I put the black kahu on and around Sam, and that was a symbol of our union. Thank you for your time today and having this discussion. And thanks everyone for being part of the kōrero with us. Bye-bye.